Okay, hello, Julie Crockett. It's been a while.
It has been, Owen. It's lovely to be here again.
Yes, and we have connected a few times, this is actually your second time on our podcast, but it's been a few years between stints.
Yes, yeah. It's always interesting when we sort of throw a pandemic in the mix, and we end up with this lag of time. But yeah, no, look, it's great to be back and great to be chatting to you again.
Yes, well, that time it was when yes, we caught up in person, and we were standing next to each other. Now we're doing it online. Yeah, we're it's using all of the technology.
Exactly.
So it's good to have you back on, and with our expert series of interviews on the podcast. And we just want to find out, first of all, tell me, and everyone who hasn't already heard you on the podcast, tell us a bit about yourself, how you got started as a buyer's agent, and how long you've been doing it.
Yeah, look, it's like everybody's story. We all have amazing stories to tell, and I love listening to other people's stories. The way I got started in buyer's agent work was I originally was a property investor, and way back in 2002, and I love property investing, and I guess I fell into it because I was teaching at the time, and then decided that I'd help more people into property, and decided then that I would transition from my teaching position into, good old buyer's agency work. And back then, it was a relatively simple step because you basically just went and got your real estate license, and then you could set up business and off you go. Times have changed now, quite different, but back then that was what it was. And so in 2010, I started Australian Property Investment Solutions and was helping people to buy investment properties around the country and having a great time. And it was exactly the way I bought properties. So it wasn't anything too unfamiliar.
Okay. And in 2010, it's just like, even though that wasn't that long ago, it was a buyer's agent wasn't a very common thing, was it?
No, I used to say to people, you'd go to business networking things and what have you, and they'd say, "Oh, what do you do?" And I'd say, "Oh, I'm a buyer's agent, and I work for investors to help them buy investment properties that are existing, basically." And they look at me quite strangely and say, "Buyer's agent? What? I know what a real estate agent is, but what does a buyer's agent do?" They had no clue. So there was this huge education piece around,
Yeah.
what buyer's agents do and the value that they bring to their clients. And yeah, it's been an interesting journey.
And what's the difference in the reaction with sales agents that you're working with based on then and now?
Oh, well, that's been an education piece as well, because in the early days, sometimes I wouldn't even tell them I was a buyer's agent, because it was like this lengthy explanation to kind of get people on board, and then they go, "Oh, well, you're buying anyway, so I don't really care if you're representing or if it's yours, who cares?"
Yeah.
In the end, yeah, but interestingly, these days, most sales agents like the idea of buyer's agents, particularly who work in my space. If you're working representing a client who wants to invest, they go yippee, because what happens is they only really then have to look after the vendor side of the transaction. So it's a
Yes.
very, very easy, somewhat easy job for them then to just have dialogue with the buyer's agent, and for the buyer's agent to handle all that is required on the buyer's side, which, obviously that's what we're paid to do.
Yeah, so actually, that would be interesting to sort of delve in a bit further. It's what are the benefits? You mentioned one, but what are the further benefits? And maybe if you can expand on that first one, for sales agents to work with buyers agents.
Yeah, look, the traditional way of sales, of real estate sales, is that you have to work very hard to be able to, manage both, the buyer and the seller as at the same time. So what they tend to do now is use buyers agents to help them in transactions that could be a little bit tricky. And by that I mean there could be a sales campaign that's gone right up to Christmas, and the sales agent has secured up a buyer for that property. And then over that Christmas period, the finance falls through, and they're back at square one. And then we're into a new year, and then they have to sort of gear it up again to go down another sales campaign. I've had several in the past few years who I've been in touch with them prior to Christmas, and then post-Christmas I get the call, "Oh, Julie, have you still got that buyer?" Because my vendor is not keen at this point in time, the sales fallen through. He's not keen at this point in time to then whack it back on the market and see if we can go through that whole process again. If you've got a buyer and they're prepared to sort of, we'll talk, we'll negotiate price and terms and conditions, then, off we go. And of course that works really well for me and my buyer, because basically, we're not hot competition. We're not, one would argue is that, the sales agent's best way forward. And I would argue, well, if that's what the vendor has indicated that they want, then sure, it's just a means to an end to get the property under contract and sold, so that the vendor can then move on to whatever they're going to do next. So
okay, so it helps the vendor and helps the sales agent make their job easier or simpler in terms of just if they're dealing with a buyer's agent, or maybe several buyer's agents, they're not really needing to deal with buyers, and they can talk more freely with buyer's agents, talk the lingo without having to explain it, and then so their job would be easy with just needing to speak with the vendor about offers that are coming in through buyer's agents. And so quite often they don't have to go into a full marketing campaign, which again might save the vendor money in advertising dollars. And what other benefits? I suppose they could get a quicker result, you were saying.
Yeah. Potentially they can. But I've had people say to me, why wouldn't a vendor take a property to market, and we're finding out more and more nowadays that properties are being offered off market. But, there's a lot of people who actually don't ever want to go through a sales campaign. And when I thought about it, it's people like the elderly. A lot of elderly people do not want 50 groups traipsing through their house on a Saturday, times however many Saturdays they've got open houses. A lot of people have tenants that are potentially family members, or they might have health issues themselves, like the tenants might have health issues. So there's lots of reasons why properties are offered off market, which is not news to most buyers agents, but to the general public, some people think that sounds quite strange, but actually it suits a lot of people to not put their property officially on the market and go through a full-blown sales campaign.
Yes, and a lot of time in the past, vendors would ask agents about being able to not go to market and just deal with their database. And a lot of the time, sales agents, their database is might not be relevant to the the property that they've just listed. But it also might be old. It's if it was based on properties that were that have already been sold, and those buyers have moved on, whereas buyers agents are dealing with live buyers today. And if you've got those relationships with the sales agents, then it's a no lose situation for anyone, is it?
Oh, look, when it's done correctly, absolutely. I think moving forward, we're going to see a lot more buyers agents come into the industry, and that's happening. Both buyers agents who are there to buy your forever home, and also those buyers agents who, like me, work for property investors to help them to buy properties and build their portfolios. But interestingly, I think what will happen too is the laws around how we operate will probably tighten up. And I've heard whispers of things occurring, such as a bit of collusion in terms of, possibly sales agents and buyers agents working together. Now, we operate under very strict guidelines, and we make sure, obviously, that I do, doing the right thing by our client all the time. But I guess it possibly, for those people who will find a way and potentially do something a little potentially inappropriate, let's say, then, I think the laws will come in place that will kind of tighten those relationships up between sales agents and buyers agents. 99% of all the people that I've met, probably 99.9 actually, do the right thing and make sure that each one in their own space is representing their client in the best possible way. So yeah, interesting times.
Yes, it's because I would suspect that a sales agent and a buyer's agent who are just wanting to get a result. If it's and if it sits the brief of the client, then from their point of view, it's they're wanting to just get a result and move on to the next job. So I guess it's quite tempting sometimes for them to try and get that result as quickly as possible. That may not be always in the best interest of the client, even though it might technically fit the brief. It's and we've seen that many a times with properties we get given as property managers, and we ask the client, where did you get this property? It's just like after we've picked up the keys and had a look at it, and they go, oh, we had a buyer's agent help us. It's like, oh, okay, all right, so but we're not here to judge. And but yes, sometimes it's you question whether they were just fitting a brief and not necessarily doing the absolute best for the client. And so whereabouts are you buying at the moment for your clients? And
I've got it depends really on what they need. So at the moment, I've got clients who are wanting to, at some point in the future, move into the property that I'm purchasing for them. So it's a little bit unusual and a tiny bit outside of what I usually do. So in the first instance, it will be an investment property for the next, say, 18 months, and then they will move into it in the Brisbane area. So my clients currently live in Sydney, and they want to move to Brisbane, but they want to buy ahead of time and so on. So that will be fine. Also doing another client is wanting to purchase on the central coast of New South Wales. Again, she wants to move into it straight away and then rent it out as an investment in about 2 years' time. So the reverse of the first ones.
Yes,
so you do get some quite interesting briefs sometimes from clients. The bulk of what my investor clients, like purely investment where they're looking for returns, is certainly the place I'm going to now is Perth. I have been, I like to call it swimming in the pool Adelaide. So Adelaide has been very good and still is a very, very good investor market. You just need to be careful about where you go in Adelaide. And Perth, of course, yeah, has been emerging for probably the last 6 to 12 months. I've seen signs of life in the Perth market after it being absolutely, sorry, Perth, dead as a doornail for probably the best part of 10 years. And what we're seeing now is really interesting, Owen, because people, and I get it, people buy into a market and then for some reason that market doesn't move for a very long time. And now all of a sudden there's glimmers of hope. And so all these properties are popping onto the market. It's almost like people are relieved to on-sell it, making somewhere around, 30, 40, maybe $50,000 tops. And we're right at the beginning of this next cycle. And I just keep thinking, if you held on for another 12 months, you'd get another 100,000 more. So there's definitely time to be buying into a market. There's definitely times if you're wanting to sell, but sell when the market is nearing the top and not when it's still on the upward trajectory.
Yes, they always, the old saying about property, it's, time in the market, not necessarily timing the market. But it really is a bit of both. A lot of the time you have to spend the time in the market, but don't time yourself too short when you decide to sell. It's because once it goes, you got to ride that wave. You'll never necessarily pick the top, but ride it all the way through. And at some point in time, yes, if you need to sell down the track, it's once it's leveled off, but you would have got the bulk of that capital gain during that time. But yes, Perth market, as you mentioned, in the last 12 months especially, and it just keeps on picking up pace, has really taken off. We started managing in Perth just under 12 months ago, and it's really gone gangbusters from a property management point of view. Rents are increasing. There's certain pockets that, yes, as you mentioned, you need to be careful where you buy to be able to get a tenant quickly and to have a good quality property long term and to be able to keep good quality tenants. But yes, it's really a market that has been just waiting and waiting and waiting for such a long time, and it's finally going. So it's good to see.
Yeah. And I think you've made a really good point there, Owen, that, we know that property goes in cycles, but again, we can't predict how long those cycles will be. So when you buy an investment property, I think some wisdom to employ would be to make sure that you're really, no matter what happens in the market, you're going to hold on to that property for at least the next 10, maybe 15 years to see some really good result in it. It's interesting that people don't necessarily think about, once you've sold a property, and it goes without saying, you can never buy that property again for the same price you paid for it all those years ago. So one of the reasons why I truly believe, because I've seen it myself, over the longer period of time, you can actually create much more wealth than if you buy and sell on a regular basis. And if you want to create generational wealth and have that for your children and show them how to create generational wealth, that's also how you do it. So you're buying the best possible property that you can at the time with the money you have in the best possible location, and you hold that property and you use the equity in it to leverage to buy more property. You hang on to it for as long as you possibly can. If you can, it might outlast you. But I guess what I see people doing a lot, and novice investors do this all the time. And I had someone come back to me the other day, one of my gorgeous clients, and say, I purchased in Adelaide. I've made, nearly $300,000 in that property over, it's probably less than 3 years, and maybe 3.5 years ago she purchased. And basically, she said, "Oh, I think it's time that I sell it, and then I'll buy something better." And I just looked at her and I said, "Okay, we could do that, or what we can do is just hold that property, leverage it, buy more property, and then be able to, keep building your portfolio over time." Yeah, and I made the comment to her then. I said, you paid, I think it was about it was 415,000. So you paid 415,000 for that property, and that property now is worth 750-ish, maybe a bit more. You won't be able to buy anything like that quality, anything in that suburb for a reasonable price that's going to get you a great yield. And she said, "Oh, I hadn't thought of that." So yeah.
And of course, if she did sell, she could possibly be triggering capital gains tax issues and all of those other things that people don't think of until they go see the accountant and get the bad news. Any investor, before you sell or purchase, get the advice from the accountant of how to purchase or how to sell, or whether it's worthwhile selling. It's like it's very important, because it can wipe out a lot of the potential gains that you might have had. So, and so apart from Perth, are there any other markets that you're looking at around the country that's quite hot and you're interested in?
Perth is the hottest. Perth is definitely the hottest, and as I was saying to you a while back, I think this is absolutely the year for Perth, no doubt about it. So if you're thinking about it, don't think too long. You need to do it.
What would be your second go-to? Like if and it might be for purchasing for other reasons. It might be purely for income purposes, rather than capital growth. Where would be your go-to for that if it wasn't Perth?
Certainly Adelaide still fits the bill because it's still affordable, and it's still in the right spots in Adelaide. I tend to steer clear of those suburbs that are very low socioeconomic, making sure that, I've got my clients into suburbs that are sort of closer in to Adelaide, and anything on the coast, of course, is people love the water. Who doesn't?
Yes, so, they do.
Yeah. So if we can get properties along that coastal strip, then great. I think Adelaide has the yields are still fairly good, although they've had so much growth. And what tends to happen over time, as we know, is the more growth you get, the lower the yields look and seem and are, particularly in this high interest rate environment. So, Perth and Adelaide, but the top pick is Perth because at the moment, if you're buying right, you can certainly get the growth as well as the very strong yield.
Okay, all right. Now you told us a little bit about how you started as a buyer's agent and how that progressed through starting off. What would you suggest to new buyers agents in the market of how they should get started and what they should look out for?
Yeah, look, I think you alluded to it a moment ago, Owen, and it's a really good tip. Is if new buyers agents aren't sure what level of due diligence to do on a property, then it's really, really important to do all of it. And so that would be my tip, is to look at, your due diligence, and can you be digging deeper and making sure that you've got as little, if no risk, and there's no such thing as no risk in an investment property purchase. But, what I try to do is make sure that when I'm working for a client that I've done multiple layers of due diligence to make sure, as best I possibly can, that, you know, it's not in a flood area. It's not going to, you know, be, and another one's a fire. Another one certainly is cyclone, you know, making sure that you're not, to me, that's undue risk. I know we've chatted about this before off there, about how I value my clients so much that I would not ever want to put them into an area where they've got to pay huge insurance premiums to, just in case there's a cyclone that wipes out their place. Anyway, so multiple layers of due diligence and making sure that if you can't attend the property and inspect it, that you've got lots and other eyeballs on it that are independent eyes that can verify exactly how that property presents. So what condition is it in, and, you know, what are some of the costs that might be you know, coming toward my client should they purchase that property, you know, the half worn out carpets or whatever, which the agent will not show you. And in those gorgeous photos they send and put online, you know, it may not be evident in the property. And the agent might do a walkthrough and they might miss, you know, the cracks in the cornices or the worn out carpet in bedroom 2 or the whatever. And now I'm not saying every agent does that. Of course, there are some fabulous sales agents out there. Most are. So yeah, basically,
and their job is to present the property in the best light as possible, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
I'll give you an example. I love this story. I had a property that I wanted to purchase for some clients in the Brisbane area, and basically I had someone go and inspect the property on our behalf, and they they called me from the property and they said, I think we can do better. I think you can do much better than this, Julie. And I said, but the photos online are beautiful. Like, it presents beautifully. I immediately called the sales agent and I said, oh, hello. I said, you know, those photos you put online of, you know, XYZ property? And she said, yes. And I said, are they current or are they, what are they? And she said, oh, yeah, we took those about 5 years ago and we didn't have any current photos, so we just put those back online. And I just went, oh, my goodness gracious me. So, yes, new buyers agents, you've got to get independent eyes on a property. If they're not your eyes, then someone else's who knows what they're looking at. And, yeah, basically I'm now running, you know, buyers agent courses for people to really help them, because I guess,
great.
yeah.
So is this for new entrants into the industry?
It is for those who have an existing real estate license. So basically, they're people who've gone through their assistant agent, you know, probation or training, and they may be wanting to go out on their own and do buyer's agent work, or they may have been. I spoke to someone the other day who's been in the industry for 20 years and he just has had enough. Basically, he said, I just want to do something different with my life. I want to get out and have time to ride on my motorcycle, and I want to do stuff. And, you know, he's so chained to his, he's a Class 1 licensee in charge. He's so chained to his business. He said, no more. So yeah.
Okay, so you can help aspiring new buyers agents with a list of all those due diligence points of what they need to look for.
Yeah.
And help them to work out what, at least get the information, and of course then it's up to the client of whether they want to proceed or not.
Yeah, it's a whole, I do the whole thing, Owen, because I just think, I mean, I come from a teaching background originally, but part of me is, if I'm going to do something, it's 100% or nothing. And it's just so important to me that whether they're sales agents, buyers agents, whoever they are, that they're given the best possible start, because that way you get great results for your clients and it elevates the real estate industry. And that's really why I wanted to do it. I think that if we've got the chance with buyer's agents to start out right and start out well, and yeah, why not? I think, you know, we've got expertise. I have expertise in this area, 14 years of it, and I just want to share that. So yeah, I'd love to talk to people who want to pursue that as a future career and a licensed. Yeah.
Well, that's great to hear. It's that the more that the industry can be improved and helped, especially with new entrants into the market, and yes, especially over the last 5 to 7 years, we've seen the rise of the buyer's agents, and yeah, with the last two booms that we've had in that period of time, especially for that national focused investor buyer's agent. Yeah, so it's been an amazing wave to see happen after being in the industry for 25 years now. It's yeah, it's been the most exciting time in my time in this industry. So it's been great to see, and so good luck with that program. If anyone wanted to reach out to you, where's the best platform? You mentioned LinkedIn earlier. Is when we were speaking, is that the best place for people to get in contact with you?
Yeah, LinkedIn, definitely. And also, there's a dedicated website that I have for the buyer's agent course too. It's called buyersagentcourses.com.au.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
All
so
right. Well, we'll certainly be posting this on LinkedIn, and we'll tag you in it. So so anyone who's a regular watcher, listener can find us there. And yeah, thanks for coming on again, Julie. No doubt we might see you again another time on the podcast. But good to see you're still servicing clients and investors in this market. And yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, my pleasure, Owen. Thank you for having me as a guest. And I must admit, as you do, we're just, you know, passionate people about property, aren't we?
Yes, we are. We are. All right. Thanks, Julie. Talk
Thanks.
again soon.